Gambia's Ministry of Health announces more COVID-19 recoveries as the number of fresh infection increases. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden chooses Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate. In Uganda, smartphones with inbuilt thermometer to assist COVID-19 temperature checks. This and more coming on the wall today. Hello, this is Africa TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for coming along, and now the news in detail. First with COVID-19 update, because 227 people have recovered from the COVID-19 since the outbreak of the virus was announced in the Gambia. Recent 20 COVID-19 on Wednesday. Guidelines for quarantine testing has been developed and to address the challenges brought about by the sudden surge in the number of coronavirus cases in the country. The report further stated that 250 new laboratory test results were received from the Medical Research Council in the Gambia and National Public Health Laboratory, and of these 20 new tests returned inclusive, but 131 new tests have been confirmed positive for COVID-19. The median age of the new cases is 35 years and the age bracket people are quarantined and probably 2% update of the Gambia next, because Nigeria government and the telecom industry are poised to introduce a 5G network in the country with 40% of the work completed. The 4G network remains as the leading network in the country, but works have begun in earnest to expand the industry, according to the authorities. Despite the government's effort to widen the sector, not everyone is in support of the initiative. Let's have more details.
People within technology in Nigeria and Telecoms considering.
We have done a field trial of 5G. It was done sometime late last year. Systems have been dimensioned to accommodate 5G. Networks are ready to work on 5G. So I think as an industry and as a country, we are fully prepared and we are good to go and ready to go on 5G technology.
But not everyone in the industry shares that view.
We're not likely to see any kind of 5G, serious 5G, until 2025. So that's some work to do catching up with 4G. I think the 5G discussion is a serious distraction.
Whatever the case, 5G will eventually come to Africa, and in particular, Nigeria, considering its huge market.
What I do know is that telecoms is universal. It is the only infrastructure that connects all of us across the world. And the more we all participate in the development of the international telecom space, the better for all of us. We are now in the new normal, so we all need each other to be able to get things going. And so I would say, beyond any political consideration, parties should consider where best they can source equipment that will support the development of their national infrastructure.
some Jamaican black woman ever nominated for national office by a major political party. This development is also coming in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement stemmed from the death of George Floyd in the hands of police. The 2020 United States presidential election is scheduled for early November. This end of the year will see the election of a new president and vice president or the election of incumbents Donald Trump and Mike Pence, respectively. Earlier today, Dr. Jahana Libnang, National Security and Foreign Affairs legal analyst based in Washington, D.C., told Africa TV that Kamala Harris' selection could galvanize more support for Joe.
Is a strategic and significant decision. As you know, Black women in the 2016 election voted at about 96% for the Democrats, for Hillary Clinton. So historically, Black women have always been the backbone of the Democratic Party, and there had been a push from different sectors and different organizations for for Vice President Joe Biden to choose a Black woman as his running mate. So I think her pick will, one, galvanize the Black community to stand behind Joe Biden. You have to look back at, we had Barack Obama as the president of the United States for still have race issues in America. So while I think symbolically having an African American woman as the running mate and perhaps Joe Biden might even win the election, symbolically it's a good move forward. But what we have to wait for is actual policy change, right? And not just wait for it, but the people of America must demand that that we have a society where everybody can thrive, regardless of your race or your political affiliation.
President Donald Trump on Tuesday said that the Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's selection of Senator Kamala Harris as his vice presidential pick was a dangerous choice. He made the remark at a White House news conference shortly after Joe Biden revealed his decision. And from that, we come back home because Gambia's President Adama Barrow is facing mounting pressure from civil society to address the nation as the country battles a health and economical cripple coronavirus outbreak. Mariama Cham has more in this report.
Several of the country's doctors, nurses and other health workers have tested positive for coronavirus, creating a capacity gap for an effective response to the pandemic. At least 32 doctors from the Association of Resident Doctors, the Gambia GAG, have tested positive for the virus. GAG, whose members account for over 90% of the doctors providing activities, have a near halt as the government imposes restrictive measures that shut down non-essential businesses and closed down markets just past midday. Civil society groups said there was a need for urgent action and leadership is combating the spread of the coronavirus in the Gambia. Barrow was last seen in public on July 22nd when he presided over the funeral of legendary Gambian footballer Alhaji Mamadou Njie Biri Biri, for which he was criticized for violating his own public garden regulations meant to curb spread of the virus. Barrow addressed the nation 5 times since March, when the first case of the virus was recorded in the Gambia, and hasn't done so since June. He began a 2-week self-isolation on July 29 after the Vice President, Dr. Toure, a have called to a 10 days, threatened legal action against the government failed to heed their demands, which include a full medical package for frontline workers. We are giving the Gambia government 7 days from the date of this letter to respond to our demands, failing which we shall explore other legal and necessary means to have these demands met. The group said in a letter to Barrow, signed by the Democratic Union of Gambian Activists and the Association of Non-Governmental Organizations in the Gambia, amongst others. Barrow's conspicuous public absence and his continued silence has been questioned by civil society and social media users as coronavirus cases rise by more than the civil society organizations wanted Barrow to address the nation within 3 days. However, a 72-hour deadline from August 8 for him or address the nation passed without a word from the president. As of August 12, the total number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the country stood at 1,477, with 33 deaths and 247 recoveries, according to data from the Ministry of Health. The Gambia has more than 1,000 active cases as of Wednesday. Coronavirus are a family of viruses, including the less severe common cold and the deadly Middle East Respiratory Syndrome (MERS), severe acute respiratory syndrome (SARS), and now COVID-19. As of Wednesday, more than 20 million people contracted the coronavirus worldwide, from which more than 500,000 people have died in 216 countries, areas of territories, according to the World Health Organization. I am Mariam Cham.
And from the report there by Mariam Cham, next we head to Mali, because Mali's recent political unrest continues as protesters gather on the street of Bamako to express their dissatisfaction with the government and demand resignation of the president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Heads of states from the Economic Community of West Africa last month traveled to Mali to mediate between the parties, but could not find a common agreement on how to end the crisis. Fatoumata Fati reports.
Thousands of protesters took to the streets in the capital, Bamako, to demand the resignation of the country's president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, on Tuesday. Protesters gathered in large numbers at Avenue L'Indépendance and holding placards on which they wrote their concerns. The former Foreign Affairs Minister of Mali was among the protesters who stood to ask women if they would sit and allow their children be imprisoned and killed for demanding their rights.
I speak to my dear sisters. Dear sisters, will you accept that our children are killed for nothing? Will you accept that our children are in prison just because they claim their rights? Children are killed and imprisoned. Stand up to say no.
Musa Toure, a young protester, says promises made by the government were not met and the rate of insecurity rises and is taking over the country. Of Boubacar Keïta has been catastrophic and denounces such governments and urges the regime to step down.
All we know is that all these 7 years of governance has been calamitous and the government has been catastrophic. We are present here today to denounce and demand the resignation of the regime because we are fed up with this regime.
Kaja Sidibe, also a protester, says the government is not a private institution and that 7 years of failure is enough.
Enough is enough. They failed after 7 years. The state is not private property.
The ECOWAS community, headed by the president of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, held an extraordinary summit in July 2020 to propose measures to help resolve the escalating political crisis in Mali. But the meeting proved fruitless as no final agreement was made. The Malian society stays in unrest, waiting for a positive response from the government.
And a report was filed in there by Fatoumata Fati, and of course, as Malians continue to demand the resignation of the president. And with that, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV. And now to the rest of the stories. Now, the Binopharm pharmaceutical factory owned by the AFK System company launched the production of Russia's COVID-19 vaccine in the city of Volgograd near Moscow. At the moment, the enterprise can produce 1.5 million doses of the vaccine per year. The corporation's president, Vladimir Kafros, said. Let's take a listen to him in this inside.
The first batch of the vaccine is already ready for shipment to the regions. As for the priorities of vaccine distribution, these priorities will be determined by the state. But as far as I think, the vaccine will be given to the medics first, because they are at the forefront of the fight against the pandemic and they are in risk zone. At the present, production capacity is about 1.5 million doses of vaccine per year. We are well aware that these volumes are not enough, which is why we could
yesterday, Moksakov said that the drug doped Sputnik V will be produced at two sites at the Gomenlaya National Research Center and Binoham. The head of the ministry also added that Russia is ready for international cooperation with the development and implementation of the vaccine. Well, we hope that finally, of course, we will eventually get to the lasting solution of COVID-19. But as and until then, we'll keep fighting the pandemic. And from that next, we come back home because the Minister of Petroleum and Energy has confirmed having 12 COVID-19 cases instead of details of
the Information Officer of the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, Aminata Sane, says her ministry had 12 more individuals testing positive for coronavirus after the Minister Fafa Sanyang tested positive. A massive testing was conducted on all staff in the Petroleum House and close family members who came into contact with the minister. It could be recalled that iAfrica TV featured a story in a preceding report on Tuesday indicating that 30 individuals at the Petroleum House tested positive for COVID-19 days after the Minister of Energy tested positive for the virus. Mrs. Sane denied these figures, saying that the actual figure confirmed is less than 30.
three. So this is OIC also. So what I'm saying is, we have as of now we have 12. You understand? Right now, I was trying to reach to Dr. who is in charge, Dr. Sanyang, who is in charge of the testing. But he's yet to tell me how many we have again, because they have a lot of results, samples that they have there that are not complete. So we have about 20 more of the entire bulk that we sent that is still left. We don't know the status as of now, as I'm speaking to you. So what we have a lot more than what we already. But you cannot say party.
Mrs. Sane explains measures that her ministry is taking to defeat the spreading of the deadly virus since its confirmation in her institution.
Yes, so what we did basically was when we learned that the minister tested positive, like I said, on the 2nd, on the 5th we took it upon ourselves, and then we tested everybody. Like I said, we did the mass testing. So after that, we did the mass testing on 2 days, the 5th and the 6th itself. That was Wednesday and Thursday. And then after that, we arranged with health officials also, because we're working with them as partners. So we're arranging that Monday and Tuesday also, the next week, that's on the 17th, and Tuesday, we're going to have another mass testing for GNPC petrol stations, where people also who have confirmed positive families there. Include their family.
Good number of now the 77 341 quarantine. Those infected with the virus include frontline health workers and some cabinet members. For iAfrica TV News, our Makalu.
And next we head to Uganda from the report there, because Uganda Mobile Factory introduces a smartphone technology to help check human temperatures as the fight against COVID-19 intensifies. The latest mobile app is expected to support the frequent body temperature checkups. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Where are they? Temperature measured. It is guns. COVID-19.
Every time we move with our installing this building the gun temperature into a phone, it becomes more handy for you to check yourself 10 or 20 times a day. In that, even if you go back anywhere, you are able to tell your body temperature.
Health officials say the device will solve the inadequacies at health facilities across the country. It will also bring down the cost of applying the COVID-19 measures of checking body temperatures at access points.
We've been having a challenge of shortage of the temperature guns or the infrared thermometers, and having a mobile phone the sectors
undergoing international standards about 100, a small price, some say, to save a life.
And from the report in Kampala, Uganda, finally we end this news bulletin with report in Mauritius because the Japanese oil vessel that leaked foul off the coast of Mauritius has caused negative effects on the country's ecosystem. Experts have warned that the impact will also affect the tourism sector, considering that a large part of the east coast has been contaminated with oil. Volunteers are now helping to mitigate the damages already done as they sought to outside support in the fight to recover. Here's more details of that.
Fears are growing that the Japanese bulk carrier MV Wakasho could break and dump its remaining cargo of oil and fuel into waters surrounding Mauritius. Some experts predict this could happen within 2 days. The oil spill is near the Blue Bay Marine Park, known for its spectacular corals and myriad of fish species.
It is unimaginable the foul smell, the toxic smell that comes out from this oil, and the high density of the oil makes it very difficult to handle. It gets stuck on the rocks, on the plants, and the mangroves. And we have a big plantation of mangrove, big forest of mangrove all around the East Coast. And these mangroves are nurseries and a very important part of the ecosystem. They are nurseries for the fish population and the different species that
tourism.
We rely hugely on the East Coast for our tourism industry. Many hotels are found there. Most of our beaches and islets are also on the East Coast, and all of these have now been contaminated. So it looks like we are going to have a very big impact on our tourism industry because of the spillage. And also we rely heavily on the East Coast for our fish production, whether it is by farm or with artisanal fishing.
The Japanese vessel had an estimated 800 tons of fuel remaining on board. 1,000 tons of fuel now struggled to oil and sludge before the disaster could become much worse. French military and technical advisors have also arrived after Mauritius appealed for international help.
Well, viewers, that report in Mauritius finally brings this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, you can also look at our website on iafrica.tv. Once again, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Stay safe, thanks for watching, and bye for now.
lu xew ndax umpale wul woon ñoo bokkoon nekk Europe dëgg la jamono yu nekkee foofu yépp man ak yow